champion, I need some trophies. I can draw the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it deep. I ain't choose the game, can't choose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophies. I can draw the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards.
Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday night, wherever you may be, and welcome to the premiere of the new show on the MI6 Sports Network called The Extra Point. My name is Loro Antonio, joining you from Burbank, California. With me today is from the Bay Area, Isaiah Leung, and also from Connecticut, Ben Kurse. So, Ben, welcome to the MI6 family. We're happy to have you aboard, and we're very happy to launch this show. And we're looking forward to a fantastic 2021 NFL season.
Yeah, let's get the show rolling here. Thanks for having me, guys, and looking forward to starting off the first one tonight.
And you, Isaiah, how you doing, my man?
Oh, I'm doing good. Glad to have Ben on the MI6 family. Glad to finally, debut this show. We've been talking about this show for a long, long time now. So it's great to see that this show is coming to fruition. And looking forward to tonight, and also looking forward to the start of next week, or the start of this upcoming week, as the NFL season kicks off on Thursday.
Absolutely. So with that being said, let's start with some preseason recap, and also let's start with the Patriots and some of their news. So obviously Cam Newton got cut, and Mac Jones is the starter like I predicted, and I envisioned Mac Jones being the starter over Cam Newton. Like, obviously I was so tired of Cam Newton on the Patriots because of his behavior and breaking rules and all that. So I'm going to start with Ben on this one. So you and I have had a history talking about the Patriots, talking about Mac Jones being the starter. What is your perspective on the Patriots cutting Cam Newton and going with the rookie Mac Jones out of Alabama?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised they cut him out of all things. I thought he would still be on the roster by week one. But, as Bill Belichick says, it's a day-by-day, week-by-week type of thing. And, the fact that Mac Jones got a lot of the first-team reps for a lot of the preseason, I think they decided to kind of turn the keys over to the kid here. And for Cam, I didn't mind Cam Newton as much as you were kind of ready for him to move on. I thought that Cam Newton, last year, he wasn't great, but under considered circumstances, there was – hopefully, I thought I was going to give him maybe a second chance, with some new weapons, maybe just himself kind of, back into gear here with a little bit more of a full off season. But, I think the offense is a little bit better, I think, for Mac Jones, pocket passer, and I think Josh McDaniels kind of saw that. And so it's going to be a fun week one between the two former Alabama quarterbacks going at it, and we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, I mean, obviously that was a huge storyline this whole preseason, who was going to win the job, and Mac Jones was able to take the job away from Cam Newton, which I think a lot of people are just basically saying if Cam Newton just played basic football, turnover free, you'd probably still be week one, but Mac Jones just wanted more, and obviously the COVID situation that happened to Cam a couple weeks ago kind of put a factor into it as well. So good for Mac, happy for him, and hopefully he rocks out week one.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out week one too. So Isaiah, I'm going to go to you on this one. What was your thoughts on the Patriots cutting Cam Newton and starting Mac Jones? I really am excited about this kid. Mac Jones is comfortable in the pocket. He knows this offensive system, but we're going to get to these comments in just a minute. So Isaiah, the floor is yours.
Well, you guys know I'm a 49ers fan. I'm rocking this Niners jersey right now. So I'm not deeply into the Patriots, so I'm kind of on the outside looking in, and I was shocked. I thought that Cam Newton was the favorite for the job because he's a veteran quarterback, and I think Bill Belichick just doesn't like starting rookie quarterbacks. He's not comfortable starting rookies, so I thought he was going to go with Cam, even though they drafted Mac Jones in the first round. I thought they were going to have Cam start this season and see how he goes, and if he falters, then they would put Mac Jones in halfway through the season. But I guess that Mac Jones just won the Patriots over. I mean, he had a really, really good practices the couple of days that Cam Newton wasn't in the building, and he was out with being on the COVID protocol stuff. So I was shocked. I was really shocked because I thought that even though I thought Mac Jones was a better quarterback than Cam Newton, I thought that that Cam Newton was still going to be the Patriots starter just because Bill Belichick doesn't like starting veteran quarterbacks. So I was shocked that Mac Jones won the job. I was even more shocked that they cut him just because I thought that Bill Belichick would try to put Cam Newton to help Mac Jones as like a veteran mentor. But I guess that, Cam Newton just didn't want to be the backup. A lot of people are talking about how he might have to take a backup job with the Dallas Cowboys or the Minnesota Vikings and all these teams. I just don't see it, since I think Cam has such a big ego that he's not willing to be a backup quarterback on any team. He thinks that he's still a starting caliber quarterback, and I think that's going to hurt his chances of sticking in the NFL.
Absolutely. So let's go through the comments section here, and let's start with our guy, Casey King. He said, hello, guys, and good evening to you all as well, and welcome to the show, Ben. And also
Thank you, Casey. Appreciate it. Well, I'm happy to be back to start here.
Yeah, so also on the MI6 Sports Network comment, they said, hey, Isaiah, do you have your ID with you? Not sure if you're old enough to be on the show. Only 21 plus allowed on the show. Just kidding there. And then the MI6 network also reported that Mac Jones was helping Cam Newton learn the playbook. Ben, was this kind of embarrassing for a rookie to teach a veteran that?
Well, I mean, the Patriots playbook is pretty complex, to be fair to a guy like Cam Newton. But the fact that Mac Jones, who's only been here for, since he got drafted in April, and now it's August, so at least like 3 or 4 months to catch on that quick. I mean, we'll see if it transitions over to the regular season. But the fact is, in this offseason, when he was trying to win the starting job, the reports of him potentially trying to help out a former MVP candidate who's been to a Super Bowl, that's pretty impressive for a kid and Mac Jones. And I think that's another thing, too, is just the big thing about the Patriots quarterback position is obviously the mind on the head, and people can say, he's going to be potentially the next Tom Brady, this, that. And I just think Mac Jones has to figure out just to be him. And, obviously the mindset is to go week by week and see if he can keep on progressing through the play, but because obviously there's going to be a lot for a young type of kid to work on. So I think that the first week, a team like Miami, I think it's a pretty good defense to say as a whole. I mean, we'll probably go through more Miami and game picks, but I think Mac Jones, deserves it, to be fair. And for Cam Newton, like we were saying before, he has to see potentially his career over. That's a big thing. Does his arm, still have enough, or is it basically shot, like you've said before off air with me, lower in the past? So we'll see what happens to Cam Newton. I wish nothing but the best of luck. I think that he brought a lot of fun energy into this Patriots locker room last year. So it wasn't like, he was coming in with bad baggage or anything. It just didn't seem to work out, maybe potentially like we thought he could be. But going to a young kid, a new era in New England, it should be an exciting time.
It should be. So before we go on to our week 1 preview and picks, Isaiah, how could you grade this 49ers preseason? And also, are you on the Trey Lance hype train? And do you think he should start week 1 against the Lions? I think so.
Well, it's a tough question, because I want Trey Lance to have success, and I think the path to Trey Lance having success is not starting right now, because I kind of saw in preseason he had his ups and his downs. Sometimes he looked really, really good, but then there were some times where he was holding the ball far too long, holding it 5, 6, 7 seconds, and you just can't do that if you want to have success in the NFL, because the opposing defensive line, they're just going to clobber you if you're holding the ball that long. So I think that for Trey Lance's sake, I think he should sit back and be on the bench for half a season or even a full season. Let Jimmy G start, because let's not forget, this 49ers team right now, they brought back a lot of their pieces that they had when they went to the Super Bowl. So they are a team that I think could contend for a Super Bowl right now, and you need that veteran quarterback with Jimmy G. I don't think that thrusting a rookie into this team and having him start week 1 would be the ideal situation, because a rookie, they struggle. They have to go up go through their ups and their downs. And also, a rookie has never won a Super Bowl starting in his first season. So I think that Jimmy G starting, I think, will be the smart move for Kyle Shanahan. I do think you do, however, have to use Trey Lance like in some Taysom Hills type running packages. I think that would be good to throw off the defense. But in terms of the overall preseason for the Niners, I don't really know how to grade it just because a lot of the Niners starters didn't really play a whole lot. I think Jimmy Garoppolo only played like a total of 3 quarters in the entire preseason. George Kittle only played like 1 quarter. Mostert, Samuel, Ayuk, they only played like a total of 1 quarter. And Nick Bosa hasn't played as well. So I can't really judge this preseason by the Niners just because a lot of the guys just didn't play. But it was good to see Trey Lance out there on the football field. There is stuff that he has to work on. I think that if he sits behind Jimmy Garoppolo for half a season or 1 season, it would really benefit him moving forward instead of throwing him into the wolves right away.
It could be kind of the Patrick Mahomes situation. So we're going back to our comment section below. John Alcorn has a comment for us, and he says Trey Lance should start week 1. Makes no sense. Don't rush it. He holds on to the football too long. So Ben, you are familiar with the 49ers. You're familiar with Jimmy Garoppolo. Do you think Trey Lance should start week 1, or do you think the Niners should just play it safe and just start Jimmy Garoppolo?
Well, I think, as Isaiah said, I do agree with what he said in terms of Trey Lance should not get thrown into the fire. I thought that's potentially something kind of similar to what the Patriots were going to do, was not to throw Mac Jones right into the fire to start week 1. But, I trust in Bill for Mac Jones to come in and make the right decisions, with a great offense coordinator and Josh McDaniels. But I think in this 49ers standpoint, Jimmy Garoppolo has been a proven veteran still in this league. He's had his injury problems here and there in the past. There are rumors potentially he might be on the move somewhere. Trey Lance was ready to go right away, but I think that Trey Lance needs some time to kind of evaluate under a veteran, and Jimmy Garoppolo has been to a Super Bowl in the past couple years ago against Kansas City to kind of learn the ropes a little bit. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, with George Kittle, back. Kittle I think was out for some of the year last year with an injury, and then you have Brandon Ayuk, who's a very explosive playmaker. I think going into his year 2, and then you can't forget about Deebo Samuel as well. You have a bunch of guys that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have to be all world, going out of the pocket, making like crazy plays like Trey Lance would be. He just has to be a pocket passer and get it to his explosive guys and guys that can make plays after the catch. Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, and Kittle are 3 perfect examples of those guys to make the plays for Jimmy J.
And do you want to allude to that comment, Isaiah?
Which one? The one about Jimmy G not going anywhere?
Alluding to what John said about Trey Lance.
Oh yeah. I think he's right. I said that I don't think Trey Lance should start week 1. I think he should start like sometime later on in the season. But if he starts week 1, I just think it's going to be a disaster waiting to happen for the 49ers simply because you start him and then let's say he has a bad game. Like let's say, he throws like 2 picks or 3 picks, then his confidence completely gets shattered and then you can't really rebuild it. It's going to be a lot of work to rebuild that confidence. So I think that let him sit on the bench. The 49ers have a lot of time to wait right now. Let him sit on the bench. Let him start week 1, and then he can start sometime when he's ready and he has full knowledge of this 49ers offensive system.
Absolutely. So anyways, folks, moving on, let's go to our game picks for week 1. So let's start with the Thursday night kickoff game, and that is between Tom Brady and the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys are getting a much-needed reinforcement in getting Dak Prescott back, but they're not going to be with Zach Martin. Zach Martin tested positive for COVID-19, and he is on the COVID reserve list. So, Ben, I'm going to start with you on this one. You and I both love Tom Brady, and Tom Brady won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. He made an impact with Tampa Bay in his first year, taking this team from 7-9 to Super Bowl champions. And I think my pick here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they're going to beat the Cowboys easily, but it might be people may think it's a close game, but I think that the Cowboys are probably going to lose this game. I picked Tampa Bay to go out there and beat the Dallas Cowboys on opening night. Ben, the floor is yours. Who do you like between Tampa Bay and Dallas?
I'm going to go with the Buccaneers as well. I do think Dallas is going to have a pretty good season, but Tom Brady, as a Brady fan, he usually kind of starts seasons off slower. But I think you look at what he did last year, bringing that team from a 7-9 record to win a Super Bowl, and also reportedly after the year playing with a torn MCL, which was just phenomenal. The fact that he played a lot last year with that, but you get a lot of guys back returning, Gronkowski, Barrett on the defensive end, Levante David. I think that their defense kind of complements how good their offense is going to be. And I think that you got a bunch of guys back, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown. They just have a lot of weapons that Brady can work with. And I think Brady last year used a lot of his, playmaking on his wrist or whatever. He was kind of looking at his play calls there. He's not going to have to use that this year. So I think that, after this season when he won the Super Bowl, he's not going to be able to use basically his mind in terms of the plays for this coming season, which I think the reason why he thinks that they're going to be a lot better this year than they were even last year. Now, obviously, repeating, like Kurse just said, repeating as champs is very difficult, which is very true. I think that they're a very good contending team to potentially go back. I'm not saying that they will win it again because, like you said, it's very hard, and I do agree with her. But this is a team that has a lot going for them with the pieces. And, people say Bruce Arians, in the past might not be a great coach, but I do think that he has the pieces offensively and defensively to basically just go out there and let the offense do the work great, with a lot of the guys back and the explosive guys back, and then the defense. Like Loro said, Dak Prescott, having him back is great, and I think that's why Dallas, as long as they stay healthy, will be huge. But Zach Martin is a big loss. He really anchors that offensive line really well. I still have some worries about their defensive secondary a little bit, that defense for Dallas. So I do think that there are some plays that Tom Brady can make across the middle of the field this coming Thursday. But I also think that their running game, if they can execute their running game for Tampa Bay, they can eat up clock. And I do think that Dallas just won't have enough in them to beat Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay week 1.
Absolutely, Ben. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are primed to start off the season 1-0. Isaiah, I'm going to go to you on this one. So Tom Brady is undefeated against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are starting off the regular season on a very hard note. Who do you like in this game and why?
I'm going to agree with you and Ben. I think I'm going to go with the Buccaneers because the Buccaneers going into that game, they're going to be filled with a lot of juice, a lot of hype because they're receiving their Super Bowl rings. They're going to be raising that banner in Tampa Bay. So they're going to be playing with a lot of extra emotion. And also, like Ben said, the Cowboy defense last year was their kryptonite. And I know they added Micah Parsons. I still have concerns about their secondary. If they can't fix that secondary, Tom Brady's going to have a field day throwing the ball to guys like Godwin and Mike Evans and Antonio Brown and even Rob Gronkowski as well. I just think that with that Cowboy defense, Dan Quinn having to implement a new system, that's going to take some time. I just don't see how that defense doesn't allow a lot of yards and a lot of points in that first game. And like Ben mentioned, Zach Martin's out for week 1. That's a huge loss because that Cowboy offensive line, which has been their biggest strength over the years, it's not that big of a strength anymore because guys have retired, guys have gone elsewhere. So I think that Buccaneer pass rush, which is very ferocious, going up against that Cowboy defense, which already wasn't that strong, and now is missing Zach Martin, that's a recipe for disaster in of itself. And I think that the Buccaneers could have like 5 or 6 sacks against Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboy offense in that game and make Dak Prescott be running for his life, just like the Georgia Bulldogs yesterday with DJ Ugalele.
Absolutely. So let's go to our comment section to see who they like in this game for what the fans like. And Casey King also says, I have Tampa winning 31-17. I agree with that, Casey. And then Christy Wilson, who is a big fan of this show, she said, get ready for your hero Tom Brady to get his first loss against the Cowboys. And I'm going to say, Christy, We disagree with that because Tom Brady always plays well against the Cowboys, especially during his tenure with New England. And I think that Tampa Bay is going to come out on top. So moving on to the Sunday games. Let's start with the Patriots taking on the Miami. We'll get to the Patriots-Dolphins game in just a minute. So let's start with the 10 a.m. games first. So let's start with the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Houston Texans. So Urban Meyer is making his NFL debut against a team that is going to be the worst team in the NFL, and that is the Houston Texans. And they have David Culley as their head coach. And I'm going to get to you on this one, Ben. You know Nick Caserio well. He is now the GM of the Houston Texans. And we got to talk about Deshaun Watson. If he's going to play week 1, which I think he will, I'm more excited about Trevor Lawrence making his first career NFL start, and he is going to have a field day against the Houston Texans. So my pick to win this game is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to say by 30 points. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to throw the ball all over the place. He's going to throw a lot of touchdown passes to DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, Marvin Jones, Philip Dorsett, former Patriot. I think he's going to have a good day, but he's going to miss Travis Etienne. He's going to be out pretty much the whole season. But I think James Robinson is the next man up to step up for that Jacksonville running game. Ben, you kind of know something about the Houston Texans. You know that Nick Caserio runs that team now. Who do you think is going to win that game and why?
I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars too. I just think that the Texans, as Christy said, they are a hot mess. They're very dysfunctional. This team, I don't think on paper is very good. You know, you lose J.J. Watt, you lose one of your best cornerstones of that team for years. Whitney Merciless, I think, is hurt. You know, he's one of their better defensive players. I just think that offensively, Tyrod Taylor is a decent, proven veteran quarterback. He's a serviceable quarterback. But, you know, guys around him, they lost Randall Cobb. They lost quite a bit of pieces. They're kind of, I think, more on the rebuilding type of phase here. So I think this is like Loro said, Trevor Lawrence's debut should be a really fun one, and it could be a really good one. You know, I think that defense for the Texans is very it's, you know, I think Lawrence is going to be able to pick through their defense. I don't think it's very good per se. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars here.
Same here, Ben. I agree. So, Isaiah, I bet you were excited to see Trevor Lawrence make his NFL debut against the Houston Texans. What a great way for him to do that, because the Texans are a real mess, according to what Christy Wilson said. So, who do you like to win this game and why?
Well, you are right, Loro. I'm excited for Trevor Lawrence to make his NFL debut, although it does kind of put me in a pickle because I just drafted him in our fantasy football league, and I drafted Aaron Rodgers as well. So Rodgers going against New Orleans, Trevor Lawrence going up against Houston, which is going to be the worst team of the year this season. It's going to definitely put me in a pickle. But about this game, I think Trevor Lawrence has a very fun debut. You know, he's going to be throwing to guys like Laviska Shenault, DJ Chark, Marvin Jones, James Robinson in the backfield running the ball. That Houston defense, I don't think will be able to stop them at all because J.J. Watt's gone, Jadeveon Clowney's long gone, Merciless.
Yep,
all of those guys, it's going to be a whole new defense. And Loro, I have to disagree with you on Deshaun Watson. I don't think he's going to be playing week 1 just because of all the issues. Nope. And also, he hasn't had any, preseason time. So even if he did somehow, some way was cleared to play for week 1, I think he's going to be looking like really, really rusty in that game. So, I think regardless of who's starting at quarterback for the Texans, I still think they're going to have a miserable day on the football field. I think Jacksonville wins this game, and I wouldn't be shocked if they won it by 17 to 20 points.
Absolutely, Isaiah. But I also want to point out here that I think the Jaguars are going to miss Travis Etienne. I think he was going to be a vital part of their running game, but if he's out for the season, then I think it's James Robinson's time to shine. So, anyways, the next game we're going to talk about next, the new look LA Chargers, led by new head coach Brandon Staley, will take on the Washington football team, as both of those teams are poised to make another run for the playoffs, but especially the Washington football team, who is in a very, very bad division. They're a quarterback away from being good. I think they are the well-coached team in that division. So I'm going to start with you, Isaiah, on this. I mean, you might know Ryan Fitzpatrick pretty well, and I know we like Ron Rivera. So my pick to win this game is I'm going to go with the LA Chargers because I think Justin Herbert is ready for year 2. I think it's going to be a very, very close contest between those two. I think the Chargers win by a touchdown. Isaiah, who is your pick to win the between the Chargers and Washington football team, and why?
This is going to be a very close game. And when I was looking at the list of games to pick this week for week 1, this was the game that I was having the most trouble picking because, you know, the Chargers with Justin Herbert, I think the defense is going to be better with Brandon Staley now running that defense. And the wide receiving weapons that Justin Herbert has at his disposal. And then you look at Washington, Chase Young, that loaded defense, Jack Del Rio doing an outstanding job running that defense, plus Ryan Fitzpatrick at the quarterback position for the Washington football team. You know, I'm going to go with the Washington football team, but go with them like by a field goal because I think that this is going to be a really close game. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think it's going to be good defense versus good defense. And I just think that with the West Coast team not really having success annually against having to travel from the West Coast to the East Coast and having to start at 10 a.m., I just think the Washington football team will be able to get off to a good start. And I think that even though it's going to come down to the end, I think the Washington football team with that home crowd will be able to provide a jolt for them. And I believe that they're going to win it on a last-second game-winning field goal.
I could see that happening, but you never know. This is a very tough game to pick. So, Ben, who do you like between the LA Chargers and the Washington football team?
I'm going to go with the Washington football team, but I think it's like a toss-up. It's a 50-50 type of split. You know, the Justin Herbert is going to be an absolute monster in year 2. Last year, you could just see what potential that he brought to that Chargers team. But I do think that Chargers defense is kind of underrated. I think that they have a lot of things going for them really well this year. But I just think the Washington football team, you can't underestimate what they have. And look out for Antonio Gibson. I think that this kid running back is really special. I do think that he's going to be able to have a pretty big day if you have him in fantasy per se. I think he's a guy to look out for the first couple of weeks here. And Terry McLaurin on the outside is just a great threat for a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's been in this league for a long period of time at, different types of teams. And then Coach Ron Rivera, I think, is going to have a pretty good year too. But I think that this, like I said, it's going to be a toss-up, and I'm going to go with the Washington football team in a very close one, like a 23-20 type of game.
Absolutely. So here is what our viewers pick for the rest of our week 1 game. So Casey King started with, and you might laugh at this comment, he said, going with Washington over the Chargers, a.k.a. the Renters, 21-18. Christy Wilson also said, I agree with her, she's going with the Chargers. And she also said something about the Jaguars winning and beating the Texans is because the Texans are a hot mess. The next game we're going to talk about is we're going to go in Isaiah's division as the Seattle Seahawks take on the Indianapolis Colts. Carson Wentz should be making his Colts debut week 1 as he goes up against Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. My pick to win this game, I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks. I think Russell Wilson's going to have a great day, but I think it's going to come down to a field goal. I think it's going to be I think the Seahawks beat the Colts 24-21. I think the Colts defense will give them a challenge. I think Carson Wentz could give the Seahawks defense a challenge. So, Isaiah, you're familiar with this division, and who is your pick to win between the Seattle Seahawks and the Indianapolis Colts, and why?
Even though I don't like them because they're in the same division as my 49ers, and like the Niners and Seahawks were epic heated rivals back in the early 2010s, I got to go with the Seahawks because Russell Wilson, if you look at past history, he always starts off hot in the first half of the season, and then he goes cold down the stretch. I think that's the same thing that's going to happen this year. He's going to start off hot. He's going to have a great week 1, and then he's just going to fall. Him and the Seahawks are going to fall down later on in the season. But this is the first half in the first game of the season. I don't really trust Carson Wentz simply because he's coming back from that injury. He had a bad year last year, so we'll see how he does. I know the Colts defense, they have a really good defense. They're going to give the Seahawks a challenge, but I just trust Russell Wilson. I trust Pete Carroll. I trust Tyler Lockett, and I trust DK Metcalf to be able to withstand the challenge that the Colts will be giving the Seattle Seahawks. So give me Seattle with a great road win over the Indianapolis Colts in week 1.
Absolutely. I mean, I like the Seahawks in this one just because of Russell Wilson. I've always loved Russell Wilson. You don't want to underestimate him. Ben, the floor is yours. Who do you like between the Indianapolis Colts and the Seattle Seahawks?
Well, we have a clean sweep here. I'm picking the Seattle Seahawks as well. I just think with the Colts, they're going to be a great team. They got a great offensive line, but they've had a lot of offseason problems. You know, Quentin Nelson, their offensive line seems a bit banged up. Carson Wentz, you know, with him declining with the vaccine and stuff, it just seems like there's a little bit, I'm not saying tension, but there just seems to be a little bit of a rift here with a lot of different types of really good players. T.Y. Hilton's going to be out for the first couple of weeks here. He's a big part to their offense. So I think that the Colts might start a little slow. And like Isaiah was saying, Russell Wilson, you know, he's one of my favorite fantasy quarterbacks. You know, last year he was just putting up huge numbers in the first half. You know, people are talking, you know, by week 5, week 6 that he might be the MVP type candidate with how great he was playing before he kind of had that little slid, you know, mid part to the end part of the season last year. But I do think the Seahawks are going to win. You know, in terms of the offseason with the Seahawks between Wilson and Carroll and all that stuff, I think that's kind of, you know, set aside here. So I think they start off hot, and I'm going to go with the Seahawks in a close one.
I think that might be a very close one here. So let's go back to our comment section here. Is Christy Wilson is picking the Seattle Seahawks. I agree with that. And then Casey King also says that Seahawks win 27-23 over the Indianapolis Colts, a.k.a. formerly the Baltimore Colts. Now, the next game we're going to talk about next is from Ben and I's division. The New York Jets visit the Carolina Panthers. I'll tell you guys this. It is going to be weird seeing Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold go head-to-head. And I say that because Sam Darnold, we thought that he was going to be the solution to the Jets' quarterback woes, but it didn't turn out that way because Adam Gase ruined his career. And with Zach Wilson, I am excited about this kid. I think Zach Wilson is not only going to help. I think he's not only going to help the Jets and their quarterback issues that they've had. I think Zach Wilson's going to be that next Joe Namath in New York with the Jets. So, anyways,
there, Laura.
That is a hot take.
So, anyways, I was going to also say that Zach Wilson's kind of like the BYU's version of Patrick Mahomes because he can run out of the pocket, sling the ball downfield. That's what Zach Wilson brings, and he is going to be fantastic, but the Jets are probably not going to be good within the next 2 years. So I'm going to pick the Carolina Panthers to win this game. I think Sam Darnold gets revenge on his old team. Ben, I'm going to go to you on this one. Who is your pick to win between the Carolina Panthers and the New York Jets?
I'm going to go with the Panthers too. I think the Jets with Robert Saleh are going to be a lot better than last year. I'm not saying they're going to be great, but I do think Sam Darnold is going to get revenge on his old team. I think the Carolina Panthers offense has been underrated. You know, you have DJ Moore. They added Robbie Anderson. You know, obviously it's Darnold-Robbie Anderson connection from the Jets. And offensive coordinator Joe Brady is there in Carolina too. So they're a really good, I think, team that's going to be a team to look out for. I don't think they're going to make crazy amount of noise to, you know, do anything with the division or win it or whatever. But they're just a team that I think just for players and coaches or whatever to just keep an eye on because, you know, keep McCaffrey healthy. That's another big thing. That's his problem in the past. He's one of the most electrifying players that the NFL has seen, you know, not on the current NFL, but just as a whole. But as long as he stays healthy, that helps a lot. And then you have Moore and Anderson on the outside. Their defense, I don't know a whole lot about, but I think that, you know, their offense for sure, I think will get the job done. And Darnold, like Laura said, will get his revenge against his former team, the Jets.
Absolutely, Ben. You were spot on right about that one. So, Isaiah, you kind of like USC. who is your pick to win between the Jets and the Panthers? It's USC versus BYU. Who are you taking?
I gotta go with you guys. Go a clean sweep on this, just because I like the Jets. I like Robert Saleh. I like Zach Wilson a lot, but I just don't think he has the adequate pieces right now around him to succeed. That offensive line. They drafted Austin Jackson, that kid out of USC, but he's like the only one in there that I have like confidence in. I don't really trust, or they have Mekhi Becton as well. But besides those two, I don't really have confidence in their offensive line. I'm not sure what to make of their wide receiver pieces. Running back, they're really young there. Plus, the defense. The defense I thought was going to be a strength for them because Robert Saleh, he's going to be calling the plays. He's going to be running that defense. Plus, they had Lawson, but then he tore his ACL or he popped his Achilles. So, it was very unfortunate to have those injuries happen during training camp. I thought that defense would have been better, a little bit better with those guys running or in that defense. But with those guys out, I just think that Sam Darnold, who has better pieces around him with Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey, I think Christian McCaffrey is going to have a huge day in that game against the New York Jets. And then I think the defense for the Panthers with Gross Matos, and they're really good up front. Maybe not in the back end, in the secondary, and the linebackers, but in up front with the defensive line, that's where the Jets, or that's where the Panthers are going to cause havoc on the Jets, because the Jets offensive line, not really that good, going up against the Panthers offensive line that was really, really decent last year. So I expect the Panthers defensive line to have a big day, and I think that in the end, it's going to be the Panthers coming out with the W in this one against the New York Jets.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that this is going to be – I think the Panthers might even blow out the Jets in Zach Wilson's first game. So who knows? So let's go on to the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Minnesota Vikings. It's AFC North versus the NFC North. So anyways, I'm going to go first with this pick. My pick to win this game is I'm picking the Cincinnati Bengals because I think Joe Burrow in his first game back, he's going to deliver at the right time. I think he has Jamar Chase as one of his new receivers, and I think the Bengals are going to upset the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's going to come down to that last play of the game, and I think it's going to be a 34-28 win for the Cincinnati Bengals in overtime, and Joe Burrow is going to throw that game-winning touchdown pass to his former LSU teammate in Jamar Chase. Isaiah, I'm going to go to you on this one. Who do you like between the Bengals and the Vikings?
I haven't really made that much outrageous picks on the show thus far. But I might agree. I'm probably going to agree with you on this, Loro. I'm going to go with the Bengals just because, Kirk Cousins, I mean, I don't really know what to make of him because last year he was inconsistent. He was good for a bit, and then he was not good for a bit. But it wasn't all his fault because the defense, I don't know what happened to that defense. Mike Zimmer, he's a defensive mind, an excellent defensive mind. And for some reason, the defense just didn't show up in a lot of their games that they played in. So I don't know how the defense is going to be. I think Joe Burrow, if that defense looks like last year's defense, then Joe Burrow is definitely going to torch that defense with Jamar Chase, with Joe Mixon as well. But I'm going to go with the Bengals because they're at home. I don't trust that Vikings defense. I think Kirk Cousins will probably throw a couple of interceptions in this game. And I just think that the Bengals are going to come out with this Week 1 win.
And Ben, who do you like between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Minnesota Vikings?
So I was kind of debating between the Bengals, being the winner here, but I'm gonna go solo here to make it a little fun. I'm gonna go with the Vikings with this pick. Even though I do like the Bengals, always have, for all outside the Patriots. But I just think it's gonna be a high scoring game. I don't think there's actually gonna be a whole lot of defense here. I think that the Vikings, Dalvin Cook being back, I think is big. You run him the ball a lot in this game. I don't know how much the run defense of the Bengals will be effective. You got guys like Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen on the outside. So, like Isaiah said, the biggest thing about Kirk Cousins is his interceptions. And the thing about Joe Burrow is how can the offensive line protect him, especially what happened last year. Joe Burrow has a great future ahead, without question, no doubt about it. But we'll have to see, in game type of environment since his injury that he had last year. How does he come back from that week one against a defense that in the past has had some pretty good success as a whole, but I'm not sure how much turnover that they've had in the last couple of years here. But I think it's gonna be a high scoring game. Give me Minnesota like a 30-23 type of game.
That could definitely happen, Ben, but we'll have to wait and see. Back to our comments section. So Christy Wilson said she is picking the Carolina Panthers. She has no faith in the New York Jets. And Casey King also said Panthers win 23-16. Jets are still the Jets. They've been cursed since leaving Shea Stadium after the 1983 season. Christy Wilson said she likes the Minnesota Vikings to win this game, and she does not trust the Bengals O-line to protect Joe Burrow. Now, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to go to Ben in just a minute here because you and I, Ben, both know Mike Vrabel very, very well. So I'm going to pick the Tennessee Titans to win this game over the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Tennessee defense is still very good. It's led by Kevin Byard. I think their defensive front, led by Jeffrey Simmons, is going to be very, very good. And also, the Cardinals' defense is not matched with Derrick Henry and Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. So I'm picking the Tennessee Titans to win this game, and I think Ryan Tannehill is going to have quite a field day, and I think Derrick Henry is going to wear out that defense. You're going to hand the ball to him 10 times, and Derrick Henry is going to rush over 200 yards against the Arizona Cardinals. Ben, you like Mike Vrabel? I know you're going to pick Tennessee. Who's your pick between the Tennessee Titans and the Arizona Cardinals?
Well, you said I like Mike Vrabel. You think I'm going to pick Tennessee? You're on the right call there. I am picking the Tennessee Titans. I do think it's going to be a great game, though. There's this Arizona Cardinals team. I think on paper, you have Kyler Murray, a very good electrifying young quarterback up and coming in this league. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously on the outside. Christian Kirk. They have a good amount of good weapons on that Arizona offense. I just don't know with their defense. You have J.J. Watt, obviously a great fit there. Budda Baker, Chandler Jones. They have some guys on that defense, but like Loro said, that offense for the Tennessee Titans is legit. You got a guy like Julio Jones in their offense alongside one of the best receivers in football, and A.J. Brown. And then you have arguably the best player, like a top 5 NFL player in Derrick Henry. It's just like a 3-man machine that you basically put into one. And then Ryan Tannehill, obviously, if he could just be turnover-free, he's had his turnover problems in the past as well, too. But I think that this Tennessee Titans will have a great start to the season, and they will start off with a win over the Cardinals.
I think Tennessee is going to get off to a very good start into the season. Isaiah, you probably don't like the Arizona Cardinals to win this game, but who's your pick between the Arizona Cardinals and the Tennessee Titans?
Well, I'm going to go with the Titans because it's not that I don't like the Cardinals football team. I like their offense a lot. They have Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins. They have all those studs on the offensive side of the ball, but it's that defense. Last year when my Niners played the Cardinals, their offense was pretty good. It was their defense that the Niners were gashing. Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard, guys that you don't even expect to be gashing teams. They were gashing that Cardinals defense. I know they added J.J. Watt. They have Chandler Jones. 2 great rushers on the opposite sides rushing the passer, but they lost Patrick Peterson. The secondary, Malcolm Butler, who was signed to be their top cornerback, he abruptly retired last week. So I don't really trust the Cardinal defense. I just think that, yes, they're going to be able to rush Ryan Tannehill and give him a challenge, but I think Derrick Henry, they won't be able to stop him, and I think that's what's really going to carry Tennessee to the win is Derrick Henry running the football. So give me Tennessee in this football game.
Absolutely. So before we get to your game, Isaiah, back to the comments section. So Casey King, our top fan of this show, he says Vikings win over the Bengals, and he also likes the Titans to win over the Cardinals 33-20. And our former member of the MI6 team, Sammy Sharp, is tuning in right now. Thank you, Sammy, for tuning in. and he's got the Arizona Cardinals over the Tennessee Titans as a barn burner type game. And Casey King said, and Cliff Kingsbury is still their coach, and he's going to hold his team back. Now, let's talk about the 49ers taking on the Detroit Lions. Although I'm going to say that I think when Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, he's effective. But I just feel like that the Niners should start Trey Lance against the Detroit Lions. So with that being said, I'm going to pick the San Francisco 49ers to beat the Detroit Lions big time, because I think the Niners last year, all the injuries that they've had, they took a step back last year, and I think this year they're going to be so much better. So Isaiah, you got the 49er jersey on. Who is your pick to win between the 49ers and the Lions?
Well, if I picked against my 49ers while wearing this 49ers jersey, I don't deserve to wear this 49ers jersey. So obviously I got to go with the 49ers. They're playing Detroit. I know it's a 10 a.m. game, but I just think the 49ers are way better than the Detroit Lions, who are in a rebuild right now. The 49ers, every time they play Jared Goff, they always eat up Jared Goff. So I think it's going to be the same thing. Jared Goff gets pressured a lot. He's going to get roughed up. He's going to get sacked a lot. That Niner defensive line is going to eat all day against that weak Detroit Lions offensive line, as well as Jared Goff. So I expect the Niners defense to dominate, and I think the offense will dominate as well, just because if you look at Detroit, like, their defense wasn't that good last season. It hasn't been good the last couple of seasons, and they really didn't do that much to make me think that it's going to be better. So I think that the Niners are going to be able to run the football against this Lions football team. They're going to be able to run effectively. I think Mostert has a big day. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, he's going to throw at least one interception, because that's what Jimmy G does all the time in every game. He just has this one interception, gets it out of his system, and then he will be fine. I think Jimmy G has an effective day. The Niners are able to mow the Lions down with their running game, and I think the Niners win this game pretty handily over the Detroit Lions.
That is definitely the case there, that's for sure. So, Ben, who is your pick to win between the San Francisco 49ers and the Detroit Lions?
Well, we got a clean sweep here. I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. Like Isaiah said, the 49ers defense eats up Jared Goff pretty well, as I've seen in the past when Jared Goff was on the Rams. And the thing about the Niners is they're just fully healthy. Their defense, when fully healthy, that front is one of the best defensive fronts in football, without a doubt. Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas, Armstead, I believe he's still on that defensive line.
Yes.
Yeah. So, they have a lot of guys on that defensive line that are just absolute freaks. And then that offense, Jimmy G, as a former Patriot, he's had his injury problems and his interception problems in the past. But overall, just, he has guys around him you can just give him the ball to, like Mostert at running back, and the receiver core. You have one of the best tight ends in football in George Kittle. Against the defense, which is not very good, they should be able to have big chunk plays a lot of the time in the offense. Defensively, they might have a couple turnovers here and there, and they should be able to win this game. I would say pretty handily, but they should win by a pretty good margin.
They should be, that's for sure. So anyways, let's go now to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Buffalo Bills. We might not even take long enough to talk about this game, because Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, they are ready to take their game to the next level after losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game last year. I do think Josh Allen is going to have a great year. He got that new contract. He earned it. And I think that the Buffalo Bills are in for another fantastic season. And even though as a Patriots fan myself, although I'd like to say that the Patriots would win this division, I think the AFC East as a whole is going to be a very tough division in the coming years with the young quarterbacks such as Josh Allen, Zach Wilson, Tua Tagovailoa, and Mac Jones. But right now, the Buffalo Bills are the better team, and I picked the Buffalo Bills to steamroll Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben, who is your pick to win between the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers?
So lower the Buffalo Bills. Obviously took the AFC East last year after it was a long, great, run that we had of the division titles. But I give credit where credit's due. Josh Allen's leap was probably the most impressive thing that I have seen in a quarterback in a long period of time. The fact that him to get to the AFC title game against arguably the best quarterback in this current NFL right now, Patrick Mahomes. He pretty much set a lot of the great standards. A lot of people are saying that, pre-experts or whatever, saying that he could potentially win MVP this year, Josh Allen, this coming season. That's how high that they're expecting him. You got one of the best receivers back with him and Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis as well too. Kind of in that receiving core of Dawson Knox, tight end. Can't forget about that defense for Buffalo too. Tremaine Edmonds. They got some guys that can play some defense there too. But I was thinking about this one. I was going Buffalo pre there first, but I remember the game against the Steelers last year, and Josh Allen as a whole, that was one of his games that he kind of struggled with earlier on. I believe the Steelers held him to one of his first half lowest scoring games. So I'm not really high on Big Ben this year, but I'm going to go with the Steelers in this one because I think that this Steelers defense might be able to give the Buffalo Bills offense some fits early on in this season. So I'm going to go with, I would say the upset, going to Buffalo. I'm going to go with the upset here in the Steelers. But if they win, it'll be a close game.
Absolutely. It is going to be a great game, that's for sure. Great early morning game here on the West Coast. And for those who live on the East Coast, you're going to get a treat watching this game. So, Isaiah, who is your pick to win between Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills?
Out of all the games in the early slate, I think this probably will be the best game in the early slate because you got Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers with that defense going up against Josh Allen and that Buffalo Bills loaded offense as well as that defense as well. Like Ben, I was really thinking about this game because I didn't really know who to pick. I could honestly see it going either way. But I'm gonna go with the Bills just because they're at home. And because I think even though Josh Allen, I think he's not gonna have that great day that you will expect from Josh Allen. I think he'll have a good day. But like Ben said, that Steelers defense did give him fits last season. But that Bills defense, if I'm not mistaken, also gave Ben Roethlisberger fits. And I'm not really that confident in Ben Roethlisberger after the ending that he had to his season. So I'm going to go with the Bills, but I think it's going to be a really good game. And I think this game will probably come down to who has the final possession.
Absolutely. I agree with that, Isaiah. I mean, I think probably Josh Allen might have the final possession, and I predict that he's going to throw that ball into the end zone to Stephon Diggs to win the game. And now our final early morning game to talk about out of the 10 a.m. slate to talk about is the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons. There are two first-year coaches that are making their debut that are going to go head-to-head. They're both great offensive-minded head coaches, in Arthur Smith and Nick Sirianni. And I was very hesitant to pick who I like in this game. I like Jalen Hurts. I think the Eagles' offense is going to be very good this year. And I think Atlanta's offense is going to be good as usual. I think Arthur Smith is going to resurrect Matt Ryan's career. And I say that because Arthur Smith had run a similar offense than Kyle Shanahan did. And I think his offensive style is more play action, run the ball, throw the ball downfield. Matt Ryan will get to do that with Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, and also Kyle Pitts. He has a new toy to throw to. I think Atlanta's offense is going to be good. I think this is going to be a very, very close game. But I'm going to pick the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game because Jalen Hurts is going to have a monster game. And the outcome of this game, I'm going to pick that Jake Elliott will kick the game-winning field goal. Isaiah, who is your pick to win between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons?
Well, my pick is, I agree with you, Loro. It's going to be a close game because, like you said, both teams have great offenses. Atlanta, Matt Ryan, I agree with you. I think he's going to be resurrected this year with Arthur Smith coaching the team now. You have Russell Gage. You have not Julio Jones. You have Calvin Ridley. You have Kyle Pitts as well. That offense is going to be loaded. Nobody's worried about the Falcons' offense. It's the defense that is going to be the big issue for the Atlanta Falcons. So, the Eagles have the same problem. They're going to have a good offense, but it's the defense. I think it's going to come down to the wire, and I'm going to go with the Falcons winning this game on a game-winning field goal by their kicker, Young-Ho Koo.
That could happen too. I mean, both Young-Ho Koo and Jake Elliott, they're both elite kickers in this league. And Ben, who is your pick to win between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons?
So I think that the Eagles defense, I have a lot of questions about. The Falcons offense, I think Kyle Pitts just adds a huge dimension to that offense for sure. You got him with a great elite receiver coming up in this league in the last couple of years in Calvin Ridley. I think Matt Ryan could have a decent year this year. He's getting up there a little bit in age, but I think that Arthur Smith's a great offensive coordinator for this quarterback, and I think it will come down on the wire. I'm gonna break the tie here and go with one first one between you guys, but I can go with Isaiah's pick and go with the Falcons on this one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I picked the Eagles just because I feel like that Jalen Hurts is going to run all over that Falcons defense. Now let's go to the late games. Let's start with the New England Patriots taking on the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa and Mac Jones going head-to-head, and also Brian Flores and Bill Belichick will be going head-to-head. So it's basically teacher versus student, and two former Alabama quarterbacks going head-to-head. And also there's going to be a lot of Alabama players on both teams, especially Jalen Waddle. And then you got Dante Hightower, you got Mac Jones, of course, Damian Harris, and I'm talking about the Alabama players on the Patriots, like Anafree Jennings. So I think that this game in particular, the Dolphins and Patriots, I think this is going to be a fantastic football game, and I think it's going to end in a high-scoring fashion. And I picked the Patriots to win 38-35 over the Miami Dolphins, and I think it's going to come down to either I think it's going to be a game-winning field goal by the kicker, or I could see it being the other way around. It could be 41-35, Mac Jones handing the ball off to his former Alabama teammate, Damian Harris, and Damian Harris scores the game-winning touchdown. Ben, I'm going to go with you in this one. You and I both know Bill Belichick versus Brian Flores, Mac Jones versus Tua Tagovailoa. It's going to be a great, great first game for the Patriots. And who is your pick to win and why?
Well, Laura, I mean, you picking the Patriots to score almost 40 points. I mean, that's as much as I want Mac Jones to start and do well, that's a very I can't even speak right now. A very high, tall task for a young quarterback like Mac Jones. Now, do I think that he's going to have a pretty good game in this one? Sure. I do think that Mac Jones could have between 150 to 220 yards per se, maybe an 18 for 30 type of game, 18 completion for 30 for 200, 220. I think that Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry could have really big games. I think the tight end duo is going to be electric. We missed last year with the tight ends and everything like that. I think the tight ends are going to be a huge part to this New England Patriots offense that we missed last year, and kind of going back to the ways we had with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, that tight end duo. You have the play action, which I think Mac Jones is a very good quarterback to use in. You have guys across the middle of the field. You have James White, David Harris in the backfield to basically throw the ball to or hand the ball off to. And then the outside, you got Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, a couple of guys that they added. Not big household names, but I think two guys that can fit the system really well. I think the biggest question I have is reigning defensive player Stephon Gilmore is out on PUP for the first 5-6 weeks. So without him in that defense, that secondary, I know J.C. Jackson is a pretty good defensive back. He, as a whole, was one of the most impressive guys, a big interceptions holder last year in the secondary, not only on the Patriots but in football. But you miss a guy like Stephon Gilmore in that secondary. I get a little bit Tua Tagovailoa eating up the Patriots secondary alive when you have guys, speedsters like Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki across the tight end, Devontae Parker. They've had problems in the past with Devontae Parker, and Stephon Gilmore is one guy that's had his problems with Devontae Parker, but he's also been able to hold his own. So I'll be curious to see who they put on the offenses on the defensive side of Devontae Parker. But I think the biggest thing that the Patriots defense has is their pass rush is going to be much better than it has in the past. You got a guy like Matt Judon into that mix. Kyle Van Noy is back with the team. I think that this pass rush is going to be crucial to get to the quarterback compared to last year because that secondary I have questions with. But if your pass rush is able to get to the quarterback, you won't have to worry as much and rely on your secondary if you can get to the quarterback early on as progressions. I'm going to go with the Patriots this one, like a 24-21 type of game. I think Loro's pick is a little higher than I probably wanted for a Week 1 win. But I think a win's going to be a win. A good start to Mac Jones's Patriots career. I think the Dolphins will be a great team, but I do think that the Patriots, being at home, crowd buzzing in Foxborough, give me the Patriots in a close one. Should be a fun one. Go Pats.
It is going to be a fun one, and the reason why I wanted a high-scoring game was because I think the Patriots and Dolphins offenses are going to be better, and I think that the Patriots offense especially will be so much better this year than it was in 2019 and in 2020. So Isaiah, you're not in. You kind of like this matchup, Mac Jones versus Tua Tagovailoa, both Alabama quarterbacks going head-to-head, and Bill Belichick going up against his former student in Brian Flores. Who do you like in this game and why?
I'm going to go with a clean sweep. I think the Patriots take this one just because I think they're at home. That secondary, like Ben said, is going to be a concern just because Stephon Gilmore is not there and Devontae Parker, he did give the Patriots issues in the couple times that they met. So I think it's going to be Mac Jones. I think he's going to be more of a game manager. I don't think he's going to be like Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball 40, 50 times downfield. I think the Patriots are going to run the football. I think they're going to, just get Mac Jones to throw some easy short passes, get his confidence up, and then he's just going to manage the game, have that defense at his disposal, let them do their thing. And then I just don't, I like Tua Tagovailoa, but I'm not that big of a believer in him. Last year, I know it was his first year off the hip injury, but he showed me some things that really, really worried me. I know he got Jalen Waddle. I think they should have gotten Devontae Smith, but that's a different story for a different day. But they have some new weapons now in Miami. But this is going to be, I think, more of a defensive battle. And I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, Loro, than you predicted. I think give me the Patriots winning this game. I'll say 20-17. It's going to be a really close, low scoring game.
I think this is going to go either way. So, anyways, now let's talk about the rematch of last year's AFC divisional round where Patrick Mahomes got concussed against the Cleveland Browns because the Cleveland Browns have a fantastic defense, but the Chiefs have a fantastic offense. And I think Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, they can blaze by that secondary of the Cleveland Browns. But I think the Cleveland Browns defensive front led by Myles Garrett is elite. So my pick to win this game, although I love Patrick Mahomes and his ability to throw the ball downfield, sling it, and all that, but at the same time, I'm going with the Cleveland Browns to win their first opening week game since 2004, and I picked the Browns to win by the final of, I'm going to say, 27-21, as I think Baker Mayfield will hand the ball off to Nick Chubb to win the game in overtime, and I think the Browns are going to get revenge on the Chiefs after that divisional round loss last season. So, Ben, who do you like between Baker versus Mahomes?
Well, I do think that this game is going to be electrifying. We're like college football. We've had a lot of great college football Week 1 games. As if you guys watched the Notre Dame Florida State game before it came on, that was an exciting one. The NFL is going to be the same thing, and it can't get any better than that. Full stadiums coming ahead, so it's going to be like the football kind of as old, obviously with COVID restrictions still in place and stuff like that. But the Browns-Chiefs game is going to be a lot of fun. AFC title game. It's going to be hard to kind of switch back and forth between the past game and that, but if it's on, in my house for sure, I'll definitely be tuning into some of that too. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs in this game. They a runner-up to Tom Brady and that Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense and that team last year. But this team is just, on paper, just scary good. And I just think in the third year, they're just going to keep on building in terms of third or fourth year Patrick Mahomes. They're just going to keep on building to what they show or their destiny of type of team that they are in the AFC. You Kelsey, Hardman, Hill, Edwards-Helaire in the backfield. They really don't have a lot of weaknesses. I mean, potentially their defense, has some guys in their secondary here and there. Chris Jones is an absolute beast at that nose tackle or right over in that defensive area. And Andy Reid is just a phenomenal offensive-minded coach. I'm going to go with the Chiefs in a high-scoring game. This is going to be a high-scoring game. I do think that Baker Mayfield and this Browns team can put up points, but I think that at the end of the day here, I'm going to go with the Chiefs game in this one. Maybe Loro, I'd pick the Browns if it was a later game towards the mid part of the season, but first game of the season, Chiefs are going to be ready to go in their own place. Give me the Chiefs in a close one.
That should be a fantastic first game of the season. So, I mean, I think Kevin Stefanski is the right coach to coach the Cleveland Browns, not Freddie Kitchens. So, anyways, Isaiah, I'm going to go to you on this one. Who is your pick to win between Pat Mahomes versus Baker?
I was leaning towards the Browns, but then, Ben, you convinced me to pick the Chiefs just because they're at home. Andy Reid, he is scary good as an offensive mind with just 1 week of preparation, but you give him a whole offseason to prepare, he's on a whole nother level. So even though I do have question marks and have some concerns about the Chiefs defense, which, it scares me because, and against the Buccaneers, I kind of knew the Buccaneers were going to win just because that Chiefs defense, I knew they weren't going to be able to bend but not break for so long that they were eventually going to break, which they broke in the Super Bowl. I think the Chiefs will be able to bend, don't break, but I just think with Andy Reid, you giving him an entire offseason, he's going to come up with some new plays that we have never even seen ever before. So give me the Chiefs to win this game. It's going to be a high-scoring game like you guys have said, and I think it's going to be back and forth. But I just think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and that offense will be way too much for the Browns in Week 1. If it was in Cleveland, I might have picked the Browns.
Oh, yeah, that would have been a whole different story. So we'll have to wait and see on that. So anyway, let's go to the Fox Lake games. But one of these games would be one-sided. So the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers take on the Drew Brees-less Saints. And I'm going to tell you guys this. Although I think the Saints are a well-coached team, they are a well-coached team. I think Jameis Winston might even get his career resurrected under Sean Payton because Sean Payton is a quarterback guru. And I still think the Saints are going to be a team that is still going to be very competitive. I don't think they're going to tank. I still think that their defense is still great. I still think that the offense is going to be built around now is Alvin Kamara. And if healthy, Michael Thomas is a big part of the New Orleans pass game. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to pick the Green Bay Packers to win this game. Aaron Rodgers, he's going to show why he wants to stay in Green Bay. After all that drama this past offseason with him in the front office, with Brian Gutekunst and also Mark Murphy, Aaron Rodgers is going to convince everybody that he wants to stay in Green Bay. So, Isaiah, who is your pick to win between the Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints? And I'll tell you what, this game is not going to be the same because Aaron Rodgers versus Drew Brees, those matchups were fun.
Yeah, those matchups were definitely fun, but I still think it's going to be a closer game than you have been saying, Loro, even though it's Jameis Winston versus Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers will he won't torch, but he will put up pretty good numbers against that New Orleans Saints defense, which is pretty good defense. But I just think it's going to come down to the quarterback play, and you can't tell me you're picking Jameis Winston over Aaron Rodgers. Plus, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, fellas, I think this game is actually being moved to another site because of the hurricane.
Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's going to be in Jacksonville. So the Saints, they've been dealing with, having to move headquarters and stuff like that because of the hurricane. I just think that's too much to overcome against a Green Bay team that is ready. Aaron Rodgers is ready to prove that, last year wasn't a fluke and ready to prove and show all the other teams in the NFL why they should get him this offseason or this upcoming offseason when he probably will be out of Green Bay. So give me the Packers to win this game over the Saints. I'm going to take Green Bay by 10 points.
That could be good. But also, if Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, I think Jordan Love is ready to step it up and make sure that Green Bay is right on top. Ben, who is your pick to win between the Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints?
Well, because you guys both picked the Packers, I want to pick, the other team here, the underdog, I guess you could say. Aaron Rodgers. He's a bad man. He's one of the best quarterbacks in football, without a doubt. But I think the Saints defense could give that Packers team a couple fits here in this game. It's a neutral site game, so anything could really happen. And I believe David Bakhtiari, one of their best offensive linemen, is going to be out in this game. So I do think that is kind of a big deal in this one, because Bakhtiari is a very reliable presence in front of Aaron Rodgers in this game. I'm not a big Jameis Winston fan by any means, but I do think it's going to be the battle of running the football. I think they still have Latavius Murray, and there's some backs in there that can make some noise. Michael Thomas, we'll see if he'll be playing. I don't think he will be playing, with his trade rumor requests and stuff like that, as well as his injury problems here and there. But they also have a guy in Callaway from that preseason that really tore it up, a guy to look out for in this game and to start off this season. But I think the Saints will win this game, and it's because of their defense, not the offense. And the offense is the reason why they win. They won't win because the Green Bay offense is going to be just too much, and Aaron Rodgers is a beast. But I'm going to go with the Saints, and like you said, I'm going to go with the underdog in this one.
It could happen, but I think Green Bay is the better team here. So anyways, with that being said, the other 125 game we're going to talk about, that one is also on Fox. The Denver Broncos will take on the New York Giants. So thank you, Vic Fangio, for starting Teddy Bridgewater. I think Drew Lock, and I have already put him on the bust label, because I think Drew Lock, he's good. I'll tell you what, he's got arms. He's got an arm talent here. I mean, he throws the ball downfield pretty good. He's got a big arm, but I think John Elway's too obsessed with quarterbacks that have deep ball accuracy, tall, 6'5", 210-pound quarterbacks. I think John Elway's too obsessed with that. But Teddy Bridgewater, I think he gives the Denver Broncos the best chance to win ball games right now. And I say that because I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to run the ball. He's great in the pocket. He's going to throw the ball downfield to Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and Noah Fant. But at the same time, Joe Judge and the New York Giants, I think the Giants are poised for a big year, but I still have question marks on their defense. But I think Daniel Jones has no excuses to be good in year 3, because they got Kenny Golladay. I think Sterling Shepard is going to have a big year. And I think Darius Slayton is going to have a great year as well. And I think Evan Ingram's going to have a great year too. And you're getting Saquon Barkley back. So there is no excuses for Daniel Jones to take that huge leap in year 3. So, Isaiah, I'm going to start with you on this one. You know Vic Fangio very well from his time with your 49ers. Who is your pick to win between the Denver Broncos and the New York Giants?
I think this is going to be a close, low-scoring game between these two defenses. Vic Fangio getting Von Miller back, that is huge for that defense. Plus, all the guys that they either added or retained in the secondary, which I like. I just think Denver, Teddy Bridgewater, going to him was a good decision, because the thing about Drew Lock is that he's got a great arm. He's got a cannon of an arm. But the problem with Drew Lock is that he takes too much risk. And sometimes the risk that he takes always comes back to bite him in the butt. So Teddy Bridgewater, he's methodical. He's a guy that doesn't take that much risk. He's more of a game manager. And I think with Vic Fangio being that defensive-minded coach that he is, that loves to rely on the defense, loves to rely on the running game with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, the kid out of North Carolina, I think Denver will run the football a lot. They're going to have a lot of short, intermediate passes. You won't see a lot of deep passes from that Denver offense, and they will rely on that defense to help carry them to victories. And I think that that defense will be able to have a bit of success against Daniel Jones and that Giants offense. The offensive line, they got some question marks there. I think with Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, they're probably going to have monster days on that defensive line. But if Vic Fangio loses this game, And if he doesn't go like the first 3 games they have, I believe, is against the Giants, the Jets, and the Jaguars. If he doesn't go 2-1 or even 3-0 in that stretch, Denver might as well just let him go, because if you don't go 2-1 or 3-0, you are basically setting yourself up for failure in a very long season, because they got Pittsburgh, Ravens, I believe they have the Raiders, the Chiefs, and a lot of the hard stuff comes after those easy games against the Giants, the Jaguars, and the New York Jets. So Vic Fangio, he's got no excuses to not start the season 2-1 or 3-0, or else I think he's going to be done in Denver.
My pick to win this game is I'm picking the New York Giants. I think Joe Judge is ready to make that big leap in year 2, and I think that the Giants are going to be good within the next year or 2. I don't think Joe Judge is on the hot seat. I think Vic Fangio is more on the hot seat than Joe Judge. I think Joe Judge is the right fit for the New York Giants as their head coach, and I think that his style of play, he cares about a good offense, good defense, good special teams, because he was the Patriots special teams coordinator, and I know that Ben can allude to that. So my pick to win that game is the New York Giants over the Denver Broncos, and I think the Denver Broncos will be one of the worst teams in the AFC, along with the Houston Texans, but I am not going to underestimate Teddy Bridgewater, like Isaiah mentioned, because Teddy Bridgewater is a game manager, and I've always liked him, and I feel like that I think this is his job to lose in Denver. And I still envision him as a long-term franchise quarterback for any team. I thought Minnesota didn't handle him correctly. I think he's going to show why he could still be a franchise quarterback. And I think the best chance for him to do that is in Denver. So, Ben, who is your pick to win between the Denver Broncos and the New York Giants?
I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos in this one. It's because of this reason. The defensive line for the Broncos against the offensive line for the Giants. I just cannot trust that offensive line whatsoever for the New York Giants. And I think that this defensive line between Bradley Chubb and, like Isaiah said, Von Miller will create absolute havoc for a guy like Daniel Jones, who's had his problems, hold on to the football too long, created a bunch of mistakes. That really doesn't recipe for great success for a guy like Daniel Jones. I do agree with you, Lower. I do think Joe Judge is the right fit for that team. I do think that Daniel Jones with Kenny Golladay there now, Saquon Barkley obviously being back is huge. But I just think that matchup as a whole right there is a huge reason why I think that this game is going to be a very low-scoring game, but the defense is going to be the reason why the Broncos come out on top. I do think Teddy Bridgewater, like you guys said, is a really good game manager. Not going to overwhelm you with stuff, but he's also not going to really hurt you like crazy. Like Drew Lock was one of the worst passer ratings last year, I believe, in football. I think Drew Lock, as a player himself, has a lot of potential and stuff like that, but I do think, as Justin Bossman has said, Joe Judge is a better coach. Absolutely, I agree with you on that. But I just think that the matchup is going to be the big factor here, and that's going to be the defense being the Giants' offensive line. I just cannot trust the Giants' offensive line to at least start the season off on the right note. They might start, stronger as the year goes on, but not right away. And I think that's the reason why Denver squeaks out a close one, like a 19-16 type of win to start week 1.
That might save Vic Fangio's job, that's for sure. So anyways, let's go to the primetime games, the fun games. Sunday Night Football, the Bears and the Rams. I'm going to start with this one, and I want to say this. If Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy are hearing this, I strongly disagree with you starting Andy Dalton because, first of all, he's a backup quarterback at this point of his career. He's not a guy that you trust, and I am more of a Justin Fields fan than Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is more of a third-string, second-string quarterback now. I think Nick Foles should be backing up Justin Fields, and I strongly disagree with Matt Nagy starting Andy Dalton in this game because I really wanted to see Justin Fields and what he could do in prime time, and I think if he were to start that game, he would have shined right away. And I say that because Justin Fields is great, but I was told that the Bears have a very bad offensive line, but I think the Bears defense is going to help you stay in games. So, anyways, my pick to win this game, and I'm going to say I think the LA Rams come out on top, and I think the Rams defense is going to get to Andy Dalton, sack him 10 times, and I think that Matthew Stafford's going to have a field day in that Bears defense, because since he was a former Lion, he knew the schemes and the plays that the Chicago Bears implement, and I think he does very well against those type of defenses. So I have the Rams winning it in a shootout. So, Isaiah, I'm going to go to you on this one. Who is your pick to win between the Chicago Bears and the LA Rams?
I don't think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be a close game. But I think what's going to happen is the Rams defense will eat Andy Dalton alive. I mean, the guy's not mobile, which it sucks because you need a mobile quarterback when you're going up against these attacking defenses with Aaron Donald. That Bears offensive line is terrible. I just think that the Bears, like you said, Loro, the play calling of Matt Nagy. The Bears offense last year, they were terrible when Matt Nagy was calling plays. I think they were one of the worst offenses in football statistically when Matt Nagy was calling plays. After Matt Nagy gave up the play calling to Bill Lazor, they looked much, much better with Bill Lazor calling the plays, and Mitchell Trubisky looked much better in that offense. I think they put up like 30 points, 30-plus points per game in the games that Bill Lazor was calling plays in. And I don't know why the Bears let Matt Nagy do this, but Matt Nagy's now calling plays, which it just makes me so confused because you saw what worked, and that was Bill Lazor calling plays, but why are you taking back play calling duty? So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I think the Bears offense will be garbage unless Matt Nagy gives up the play callings duties. I think Andy Dalton, I mean, poor him, man. He's going to be sacked all day long in that game. Give me the Rams. You know what? I'm actually going to change what I said earlier. Give me the Rams, but I think the Rams are actually going to blow out the Chicago Bears. I just don't trust that Bears offense, and I think once that Bears offense, keep having to punt the football, then that defense will get tired, and that defense will end up breaking. So give me the Rams in a blowout over the Bears.
All right, we got a comment from Justin Bosman here. He said Matt Nagy needs to be fired, and I'm going to say 100% yes. I agree. I think Matt Nagy is a bad play caller. He should have not started Andy Dalton because I'm not an Andy Dalton fan. I liked Andy Dalton when he was great in Cincinnati, but Andy Dalton is just a good backup quarterback at this point, and I want to see Justin Fields out there instead of Andy Dalton on next Sunday night. So I agree. Matt Nagy, to me, is one of the coaches that is on the hot seat heading into this season, and I think Matt Nagy's a puppet. I think he and Ryan Pace need to go after the season, and I just think the Bears, my expectations I think that Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are just puppets to the Bears front office. So, Ben, if you could agree with me on that point, tell me who you like between the Bears and the Rams week 1.
All right, so before I choose my pick, I think you might get your wish, Laura, because I got a hot take. I think that the Bears midway through this game are going to bench Andy Dalton and transit over to Justin Fields in this game. I think that the Bears are going to look at this way and saying, we're going to go with the young kid, see what he has against a very elite Rams defense out of the gate early on. And if he can perform to what he can perform from scouts and stuff like that early on, you might not see Andy Dalton for the rest of this season because it's a very tall task for a guy like Justin Fields to come in, but he is going to be a great quarterback in this league. I really do. I do believe this. But that's a really fun hot take to think about, is to potentially pull the trigger early on Andy Dalton. If he goes a couple drives and they're not, performing great at all, you go to Justin Fields against a great defense and give him a chance. I mean, what do you have to lose? Because I do agree with you guys. That Rams offense, that defense, those two offense and defense as a whole are just going to be great, phenomenal. Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Henderson out of the backfield. That defense, you have Aaron Donald, of course, Jalen Ramsey in that secondary. So that team as a whole is going to be a very fun team to watch. And that Rams team, of course, Sean McVay is still at the helm there for their head coach. Give me the Rams in this one. And this game could be pulled away despite what situation is at the quarterback position for the Bears, because I think the Bears just don't know kind of what they're doing right now at that certain spot. In terms of Matt Nagy being fired, this and that, I agreed the fact that Matt Nagy's not the best play caller at all. I would probably pump the brakes a little bit in terms of being fired right away. Potentially by the end of the season, though, Loro, if there hasn't been much change in terms of the past years, yeah, time to pull the card on him. But we'll see what happens.
I'm not saying that Matt Nagy will get fired mid-season. I think Matt Nagy should get fired at the end of the season if the Bears don't improve down the stretch, which that's why I think that Matt Nagy, to me, he's made bad decisions lately, and I thought that he made a bad decision to start Andy Dalton week 1, and I disagree with that, and I just felt like that Justin Fields gives the Bears the best chance to win. And I do think Justin Fields is going to make a lot of noise when he is under center for the Chicago Bears. And when Justin Fields is under center, I think the Bears are going to be a lot better offensively, and I want to see that. The Bears offense puts me to sleep, I'll tell you that. So, anyways, let's go to Monday Night Football. So, the Baltimore Ravens will take on the Las Vegas Raiders. But I think the better game for Monday Night Football should be the Ravens and Steelers, so that the Raiders would play the Chiefs instead in week 1. That would have been a much, much better week 1 matchup. So, anyways, my pick to win this game, I'm going to pick the Baltimore Ravens by a field goal. I think Justin Tucker is going to kick the game-winning field goal. It's going to be 27-24. I think the Raiders defense is going to choke again. And I say that because the Raiders defense just doesn't know how to close out games. But I think getting Yannick Ngakoue is going to really help the Las Vegas Raiders pass rush. But what I think is not the issue for the Raiders is their offense. Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfrow, those guys make the Raiders offense fly. So, Isaiah, you like John Harbaugh. I mean, his brother coached the Niners, so I'm going to start with you on this one. Who is your pick to win? Who's your pick to win the Monday night game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders?
I badly want to pick the Raiders because, it's their first game with fans in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. So, that place is going to be buzzing. And I think the Raiders are going to feed off that energy from the fans. But I just can't, because I know the Raiders offense is really good with Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, Henry Ruggs as well. But it's that defense. They have a new defensive coordinator now in Gus Bradley. They have Yannick Ngakoue, but I don't really know if I trust them still. Last year their defense was awful. They choked a bunch of games. They should have made the playoffs had that defense been actually a little bit competent. But that defense was just god-awful last year. I just think Lamar Jackson will probably run all over him, because that run defense I still have some concerns with for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I just think the Ravens are going to be able to run the football down the Raiders' throat, and they're going to be able to win this football game, even though the fans are going to be buzzing. The Raiders, I think their offense will be able to keep up a bit, but it's that defense that, like you said, Loro, that's going to blow it once again. And I have the Ravens winning this game by a final score of 27-17.
And what about you, Ben?
I'm going to go with the Ravens on this game too. Like you guys said, I literally like that offense for the Raiders, but in order to be a good team in this league, you have to play good complementary football on both sides of the ball. And this is where the Raiders struggle in terms of complementary football, because their defense, they just cannot trust enough, especially against a high explosive offense with Lamar Jackson in that running game, even without Dobbins for the season, which is very unfortunate news to hear, because he has a great future ahead of him. But you also have guys that can replace him, a guy like Gus the Bus Edwards at running back. He probably will be their starter. Then you have Mark Andrews. I believe Nick Boyle's still there as a backup tight end. There's a couple guys there. And then I know Rashad Bateman's going to be out the first couple of weeks, their new receiver pick that they got from Minnesota. But look out for Sammy Watkins. Watkins always seems to be like the week 1, like all-star of like the last couple of years. He always just seems to bust out onto the scene early, really early on. So look out for him to do the exact same for this coming game on Monday night, as Lamar Jackson is probably have to throw the football a little bit. And he probably should be able to throw the football against a defense that I don't think is very good on paper. So give me the Ravens on this one. It'll be a close game, but I think the Ravens, it'll be like a 30-17 type of game. They'll start to kind of pull away at the end, but I think it'll be close. For the majority of it, it'll just be too little too late for the Raiders to kind of overcome the deficit at the end.
All right, we got a comment from Justin Bosman here before we get to final thoughts. And he said John Gruden is on the hot seat, guys. I'm going to go first with my take on this. I'm going to say no. I think John Gruden is poised to take the Raiders to the promised land. He's not on the hot seat for this. This is not his fault. This is not Mike Mayock's fault. I think Mark Davis is the one to blame for all the Raiders roster decisions, especially trading Khalil Mack. Ben and Isaiah, do you guys want to allude to this?
You can go first, Ben.
Yeah, sure. I probably will say he shouldn't be on the hot seat. I think there's more coaches that, like Matt Nagy per se, that should be considered more on the hot seat. I don't know. I think that the Raiders, they're just in a tough division. You know, you look at the teams that they're in that division with. You look at a team like the Chargers, the Chiefs. Just as long as their defense just on paper is just not very good. If they just add some more pieces on that defense, then you can start kind of taking them more more serious. Because if you look at their team last year, for kind of towards the end of the season, they were kind of out of it, but for a little bit, they were kind of in the mix there as a team to kind of look out for to potentially make the playoffs. So, at least a season ago, yes, they didn't make the playoffs, but they're not like a team that is a pushover type team either. They have some pieces there. Like you guys said, and I said, Darren Waller is one of the best tight ends in football. Derek Carr is a quarterback that I think is a very underrated quarterback. He'll make the great throws. He's just not a guy that will make a ton of crazy big mistakes. And then Josh Jacobs, when healthy, is a very good running back. Ruggs is supposed to receiver, but it's just their defense. It cannot be sustainable all season. Yes, they have Max Crosby on that defensive end, who's not too bad, but just as a whole, you have to have a full-on decent defense to go far in this league, and they just don't have it. So that's why. But John Gruden should not be on the hot seat for this.
Absolutely not. What about you, Isaiah?
I don't think he is because of that contract. If it was another coach with a different contract, I'd probably say something different. But he was signed to a 10-year, $100 million contract, and I believe he's still got like 6 years and $60 million plus on that contract. So if you fire him after the season, you would still have to pay him for 5 years and over $50 million. And with the Raiders and all the money that they've been losing over the last few weeks with people resigning because of those money issues, I just don't think that Mark Davis can afford to fire John Gruden right now. And I just think that he won't, because I think John Gruden will be with the Raiders as long as Mark Davis and him are best friends, because they are best friends. Mark Davis has wanted John Gruden to coach the Raiders. That was his dream for 5 years before John Gruden finally said yes and took the Raiders job. So I think John Gruden will be with the Raiders until the day he retires.
Absolutely. He loves this organization, and he loves coaching the Raiders. So, folks, it has been a great show, and I look forward to more of the Extra Point shows today and in the foreseeable future. And I am so happy to have launched this show, and I'm looking forward to doing this show not just today, but every football season that we have. So, anyways, it is time for final thoughts. So, anyways, my final thoughts is that forgot to talk about this. Josh Norman adds a veteran experience on the San Francisco 49ers, if you guys can allude to that. And I also want to thank Justin Bosman, Casey King, Christy Wilson for tuning in. And we appreciate your comments and all that. And we read them to you, and that we read it to our audience. And also thank you to Sammy Sharp, who used to be on Wild Sports Talk but has left the network. We miss you, Sammy, and look forward to reading from your comments, and maybe if there's a spot that's open, maybe Isaiah can ask you to fill in for one of us if we can't even join, if we can't make a program or anything like that. So, Isaiah, let me start with you. What are your final thoughts on this show?
Yeah, Loro, I want to echo what you said. I want to thank, Justin, Casey, Christy, I believe John Alcorn also tuned in, and Decky Plays as well for tuning into our show tonight. It was a great debut show. I'm looking forward to working with Loro and Ben as this show, goes forward. It was a great first show. I know it's going to just keep getting better and better and better. So make sure you guys keep tuning in to this Extra Point show, which is going to air every Sunday night after Sunday Night Football. So keep tuning in. Great first show. Looking forward to what the future holds for this program.
Absolutely. And Ben, what are your final thoughts on your MI6 debut? And then I look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday on my end for Loro and Friends Inside the NFL, which is on Tuesday. So you better tune in for that.
Yeah, I'd like to just say thank you guys for the viewers joining in. I'd like to thank Isaiah and Loro for having me come onto the team. Had a first great episode with you guys talking football stuff I love to talk about. Just very excited for this football season to kick off. And, next week, start recapping week one as it's going to be the last Sunday before we really have football until Super Bowl. So great times ahead. Fall's coming around here, at least in the Eastern Coast. Over in the West, it's probably a little more interesting weather-wise, but over here it's starting to feel like that fall weather here. So thank you guys for having me. Like Loro said, I'll be on his show, Loro and Friends. Done this show last year with him, had a lot of fun. So I hope you guys join in. Loro, if you have the time, you say it out to the viewers as well, because I'm not terribly sure the time again. But appreciate it, guys, for having me, and look forward for next Sunday. Thanks again for the viewers. And those are my final thoughts for tonight.
All right, folks. So our next Extra Point show will happen next Sunday at 12 a.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific, right after Sunday Night Football. So Ben and I and Isaiah will be back. We'll recap the Week 1 games, and then we'll also preview Monday Night Football to the next week, and then we'll also dive into Week 2. So anyways, for the Asian Skip Bayless, Isaiah Leung, Ben Kurse, producer Wang, Loro signing off for now. Have a great rest of your night, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend, everybody, and enjoy the last Sunday without NFL football until the Super Bowl. Have a great night, everybody.
Yeah. I ain't choose the game chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophies. I can draw the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it deep. I ain't choose the game chose me. I need some trophies. I can drive the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards.
All right.
It was a great show, Ben.